Hey, soldiers, the world is literally laughing at the United States of America. Is Joe Biden's leadership, or lack thereof, causing our allies to have a crisis of confidence in the United States and its economic strength? Is this lack of leadership causing our adversaries to smell blood in the water and sense an opportunity to elevate their position in the world at the expense of not only the United States of America, but the West in general? All right, and I don't want to cue these arguments up constantly as West versus East, because there are a lot of people throughout the world that benefit from the strength of the American economy, even if they are in China. Okay, think about it. You turn over almost every item in your home and it will be made in China. Now, the Saudis are out there. They're laughing at us. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the de facto leader of Saudi Arabia, and also the de facto leader of OPEC, is out there literally laughing at Joe Biden. Just when you thought the Saudis couldn't humiliate Joe Biden anymore, the Wall Street Journal reports that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is reportedly talking massive trash about the U.S. president behind closed doors. This is from Zero Hedge. Now, you remember the fist bump. Joe Biden first excoriated Saudi Arabia for the Khashoggi incident, and then he crawled over to Saudi Arabia all the way across the ocean on his hands and knees, begging, groveling for oil. That showed the world that this president not only is incompetent, but is not serious. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the kingdom's 37-year-old day-to-day ruler, mocks President Biden in private, making fun of the 79-year-old's gaffes and questioning his mental acuity. According to people inside the Saudi government, this is going on. He has also told advisors he hasn't been impressed with Mr. Biden since his days as vice president, and much preferred former President Donald J. Trump. Now, that has an effect on us, our economy. I don't care if you like Trump or not. The fact of the matter is, this kingdom is very close-knit. It's not as bureaucratic as the United States of America. You've got roughly half a dozen people running the show, and if you don't have some sort of personal relationship with them, then you're not going to affect any change, okay? You're not going to be able to persuade them to moderate oil prices throughout the globe with their OPEC cartel, okay? Now, I'm not suggesting that you grovel at their feet. You don't have to. Trump certainly didn't, and things went quite swimmingly. Remember that economy back then? So I'm not concerned with people who don't like Trump because, you know, he's a racist. You know, everybody that is disliked these days, you don't have to really get into the weeds of why you dislike them. You can just tag them with the R word, and that's really all it takes. That's an intellectually bereft game, but it's played all too often. So Mohammed bin Salman is saying, yeah, we had better relationships with President Trump when he was leading America. Now, what would give Saudi Crown Prince the impression that Joe Biden is not up to snuff in terms of his mental acuity? Who knows?
I'm going to say something I probably should consider not saying.
Oh, say it.
Is that I have more substantive experience on the issues facing the country, both in foreign policy and domestic policy, than any president ever.
Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farah has denied the report. Now listen to this denial. He said, these allegations made by anonymous sources are entirely false. The kingdom's leaders have always held the utmost respect for U.S. presidents, based on the kingdom's belief in the importance of having relationships based on mutual respect. Notice what word was absent there. Biden. All right. So that was a general statement. Mohammed bin Salman certainly probably feels or holds Biden in great disdain. Hell, most of the American people do. So he's in good company. They haven't been on good terms for quite some time. And Biden is also very upset at the fact that OPEC, under the auspices of the Saudis, Mohammed bin Salman in particular, have said, hey, look, we're through with the excess output. We're going to contract oil output, thereby raising the price. And so what Biden and his administration are trying to claim is that, oh, well, they're in league with Russia because Russia is an OPEC plus member. So the Saudis are saying, no, we're not on your side. We're not on their side. We're on our side. And in order to transition our economy from an oil-based economy, because check this out, the United States and the Western countries are so hell-bent on transforming the economy that they're willing to destroy their own countries to do it. So Saudi Arabia is sitting back watching this and saying they're so anxious to get off of oil, we need to go ahead and diversify our economy. Now, he wants to do that because if the Saudis cannot continue to offer, if the Saudi royal family cannot continue to offer generous public benefits to their population, unrest will foment and it will endanger the longevity of the royal family. So he's looking at all of this. He's not concerned with, what America needs. You know what he's thinking? He's thinking Saudi Arabia first. Remember, we had a president that was excoriated for having the unmitigated gall to suggest that America, the country he was president of, should be first. All right. I don't care where you go in the world. That's perfectly acceptable. If you go to France, I'm sure Macron thinks, France first. You go over to the UK. We've got a new prime minister over there, Rishi. I'm sure he's going to think, UK first. You go to Djibouti. They're going to say Djibouti first. All right. So only in the insane asylum that is 2022 America can you have a president lambasted for suggesting that he put his country first. Mohammed bin Salman does not suffer from that sort of ridicule. In fact, anybody over there that brings that up would probably not bring it up again. Let's just put it like that. So the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia says that they're going to do what's best for them. Joe Biden, they don't respect you. And to add insult to injury, now I doubt if they'll do this, okay? But they're thinking about it. They've actually suggested it. Two things. Number one, last year and earlier this year, the Saudis actually said that they would be okay with denominating some oil transactions in Chinese yuan instead of dollars.
China.
This leads to that whole theory that I have about the United States losing dollar supremacy. We're not going to have that world reserve currency for too much longer. Okay, so Saudi Arabia suggested that. And here lately, they're saying another drastic option on the table that Saudi officials have privately bantered about is that the kingdom could sell their US Treasury bonds. It holds if Congress were to pass any anti-OPEC legislation. And of course, the brain trust down there in Congress is mulling over passing some sort of legislation that would be disadvantageous to OPEC if they continue to cut production. Right now, Saudi Arabia holds about $120 billion in U.S. debt. They're the 16th largest holder of U.S. debt, behind Japan and China. Now, what's interesting, well behind Japan and China, but what's very interesting about that is that Japan and China are the two largest holders of U.S. debt. And here recently, they've been reducing their Treasury bond holdings. Now, back in like 2016, there was a lot of speculation as to whether or not China was going to invoke some sort of nuclear option and sell off all of its treasuries. And there were two schools of thought. One said, they could do it, but they would hurt themselves. And in some ways they would. And the other school of thought was that they could do it and weather any storm that came about as a result. Now, what has changed is, and we did the video on it just the other day, the Biden administration has gone whole hog and sanctioned the Chinese semiconductor industry, basically shut it down, all right? So I'm sure the Chinese are looking for an economic salvo to return fire with. Okay, now Japan's an ally, but they also have been reducing their share, share of what they hold in U.S. debt. This is, kind of disconcerting, kind of troubling. Selling of U.S. Treasury bonds is increasing worldwide. Selling of U.S. Treasury bonds is increasing worldwide. That needed to be said twice because the United States of America is not the only one that can play these, economic warfare games. And when our debt is held by other countries, they certainly can, return fire. The amount already exceeded $200 billion this year, 2022, and major countries' current U.S. Treasury holdings are close to 2018 levels. For example, the net selling by Japan and China, the two biggest holders, is 69.7 billion and 98.7 billion this year, respectively. That of South Korea is approximately 18.9 billion. So these countries are divesting themselves of U.S. debt in the form of these Treasury holdings. And let's see, according to the U.S. Department of Treasury, major countries' holdings totaled $3.9 trillion in U.S. debt at the end of July, the lowest since November of 2018. The figure was $3.9 trillion at the end of June this year and increased to $217.8 billion for the first 7 months of this year. Now, when that happens, when we see countries selling U.S. debt, here's the issue, okay? I'm not saying that these moves are going to destabilize the U.S. economy. I'm not saying that. However, if enough of that happens, then that certainly could be the case. If you flood the FX markets with hundreds of billions of dollars of debt, that's going to decrease the value of U.S. debt, these Treasury bonds. Now, in turn, the interest rates on those bonds are going to have to be increased because now there's a higher supply and less demand. Of course, a higher supply because they've been sold back onto the market. Less demand because apparently if these countries are selling them, they don't want to buy them. So in order to make those bonds more attractive to potential buyers, the interest rates will have to be increased. Now, what will happen after that is it's going to make investment in America much more expensive because, of course, we're out there offering those higher interest rates. Okay, so I'm not saying that they're going to do this, but the fact that they're talking about it, okay, shows a total lack of respect for Joe Biden. And it also shows you that even in America's allies, there is a suspicion that the empire may be at its sunset. And it doesn't help to have an addled president out there on the world stage, not able to finish sentences, losing his train of thought, getting lost on stage. And listen, I'm not making fun of this guy for that, okay? But he's the president of the United States. I think it is the height of elder abuse that his family has put him in this situation. Instead of allowing him to retire with dignity. Now, I'm not a fan of Joe Biden. I think that his moves back in the day working with Jesse Helms to resegregate the school system, I think that was abhorrent, all right? And you may call this redefinition of his legacy as, an addled old man just deserts. But I think at the end of the day, it's his family's fault because they knew this man was in decline. And because of their hubris, because of their unbridled ambition, because of their greed and their lust for power, they have allowed him to run. So his legacy has been totally destroyed. Everybody will remember Joe Biden for what he is today. everybody will remember this economy for what he has done to it. All right. President Carter is breathing a sigh of relief. He's no longer the worst president in terms of economic policy in modern history. For the record, I believe that Woodrow Wilson is the country's worst president. All right. All that having been said, we will keep an eye on this. These other countries are getting really skittish of our economic policy and looking for other opportunities. Okay. I think once we get new leadership, we'll pop out of this and get back, in an upward trajectory in all manner of aspects once we get adult leadership back in charge. And that's not just in the White House, but that's in the Congress and in the bureaucracy. Those people that you don't hear from, you don't know their names, you don't vote for them, that have been embedded in the government for decades, okay? A lot of them need to go, okay? We got a lot of fellow travelers out there that aren't doing this country any good. All right, guys. This video is indicative of what we've been talking about, the decline and fall of the United States of America. Can it be arrested? Can it be reversed? Well, the military, that's a component of our economic might. And what's been done to it over the past just a couple of years has just been absolutely unfathomable and deplorable. See how the destruction, the willful destruction from within of our U.S. military is going to have a deleterious economic effect, not only on the country, but on your economy specifically, unless you know what's going on and are able to insulate yourself and do something about it. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon.